Three, two, one. Hello, 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 and welcome back to Space Engineers on the Xbox on the Series X. The next part of the large grid build. Just let me speed time up, or rather, let me change the time of day. Last time we actually got this thing to fly. I've reverted back to the save just before we took off. And I've removed some of the blocks from the front that I don't need because I'm going to be looking at making it a bit more interesting there. But before that, we have a sealed section here that we're going to mess about with as well. And we also have a rear section. So we're going to look at potentially sealing this. We can see how much room we've got to play with. Well, we can seal it in one of two ways. We could split. In fact, the best way to do it is to cut that there, and drop in our favourite conveyors, and then seal it with a light armour block here and here. Now remember that last time we were messing about with this, sealed the front section, so I want to try and seal the back. On here, I'm still tempted to sort of mess about with that neck there, make it more interesting. You want to leave a gap at least going down there, otherwise you won't be able to access your oxygen generation system. Slap some ice in. Again, using the closed system means that we don't have to worry about consuming ice at all. That's involved with our build system. Again, this is just a simple large ship build. You may not build ships like this, but if you've never built a ship in Space Engineers, then watching this should give you some ideas. Concepts to play around with. This is just how I like to approach things, as I always build out with functionality first and then look to expanding the form later on. You know, you can go from something like this to my Callisto 71, which if you've seen it, it's on the workshop. You can't miss it. Go back on board. Seal all these. Put your eyes here. Now you'll notice that this is in the green, and that tells us that this too is in the green. So by cutting the one part, dropping out that tube, plopping a conveyor in, doing the same over there, we've sealed this back section up nicely. And don't worry about exposed piping. You can either have exposed piping or you can do a couple of things to hide it, especially with the update on heavy industry. The same with these doors that stick out. You can, if you so desire, just make them more interesting. We'll talk about that after. So we have our interior sealed. We've got some batteries, and we've got all of the things needed for the skeleton of a large ship. We also have some space to play with here and there. So rather than have our doors here and here open all the time, let's look at throwing a timer block in on this ship somewhere. And I think, hello kitten, I think putting it there. Do it. Alright, let's get onto the control panel. You can use any control panel. Just pop it open. And we want to look at our doors. Oop, door even. There we go. Right, ignore the offset door. We want to look at all the sliding doors that are in white. Select them. And we're going to just call them ship doors. You can rename these how you want on any group. You're doing trouble. I have the kitten next to me. That's... Ow. Excuse me. That's my controller. Oi. Back it in. Kittens. So, we have that timer block up there. And what we just want to do is every 4 or 5 seconds on that timer block. And again, you can find the timer block. It'll be the one in white, the one connected to your grid. You can name it if you so desire. I'm always fond of naming them, so you know where they are in your actual, let's call it timer block door control. You could call it timer block auto doors if you like. No, that plant is not meant to be botanized, kitten. Go over there. And so we now have that timer block. What we want, probably about a 4-second delay to begin with. And then go to setup actions on the timer block. If you've not done this before, you can watch many of my other videos that have timer blocks on them. But it's simple enough. Go to setup actions and find the group called ship doors. And then you want to set them to closed. And then what you want to do is you want to go to your timer block on all blocks. Ignore any crashes and bangs you might hear. And there it is, timer block door control. And you want to start that. And you want to come out, and before you do anything else, you can turn your timer block to silent and then just start it. And every 4 seconds, it will shut the doors on the ship. So if you accidentally leave your airlock open, don't worry about it, because it'll auto close now. Every door on the ship will auto close every 4 seconds. It's a nice little way of ensuring that you don't have to play around with buttons if you don't want to, and repressurizing and depressurizing. Although you can, if you so desire, use this area here as an airlock. And so we could set that up that it depressurizes the room, repressurizes it at the press of a button. We'll look at that potentially when we set up the rest of the ship's systems, probably in another video. But there is our system for closing the doors automatically. What we want to look at is what we're going to do with this back area. are we going to do anything with it? Are we going to have enough room to play around with refiners? Well, answer is not if we put the refiner there like this. So if we wanted a refinery, we'd have to slap it down like this. And that's dependent on if you actually want a base style ship with a refiner. That's entirely up to you. Again, that's more down to cosmetics, or rather functionality, really. Do you want a ship capable of carrying cargo, or do you want a ship capable of doing its own refining and assembling, so you can use it to help you set up bases elsewhere in the game? I'm probably going to go for at least the large refinery. I mean, I could open up the ceiling a bit to put it in and have it freestanding, which then means I could play around with a couple of assemblers. You're also going to have to think, well, do you want any form of crew quarters? Well, on a ship like this, it really doesn't have all that much room for crew quarters. But you could, in theory, slap some beds and a medical station in here quite easily, which is probably what we'll do. But for now, I don't want to go too overboard on presenting very long videos, so let's have a look at the front. What I was going to do with the front. Just think for a second. Save. See why I saved then, just in case that hadn't welded properly. So what we want to have a look at is, I want to see if I can make this front bit look a little more interesting. And I had this idea of putting together a sort of pod-like front like this. Now you can't do it up here, but you can do something like it was fun trying to work this out like that, almost like a cat face. Transform that. So something like that works quite well, and you could fit it in how you want. I just like the look of that. I'll be working more on that in future iterations of this video, the next one or two, when I start actually cosmetic design for the ship. We'll work out. But one of the things you can do as well now, thanks to the armor panels that came with the latest update, is you can hide conveyor ports on ships a lot easier. See the change on that? Looks kind of neat. Kind of like that. Play around with that. On the next one, we've got all our thrusters. I was tempted potentially to drop a couple of thrusters there. Now bear in mind, remember, we can load up ice and we can load up uranium for the reactors in that part. I haven't got to worry about accessing that from inside the ship. Although we could do. We can build some cargo boxes as well. I was tempted to utilise down here on this space, maybe further on in, or even just dropping some cargo boxes in to supplement the large cargo storage here. But remember, the more you slap on, the more weight a ship will create. You'll see. But, I just, since we're coming near the end of this one, just put the thrusters on. Gonna do big test. Have lift off. So you can see we've added at least 100,000 kilograms on top just by adding these armor blocks up here, and there'll be more as we build out this ship and create the engine cowling, so on. That's to come. This is going to be a shorter one than the last two. I just wanted to get a few things done on this part, show you how to create your auto closing doors and seal the last part to show you that basically building boxes inside boxes and linking them together makes it easier to seal a ship. If you wanted to, you could punch that cockpit out completely and you could create a front part on this ship with a bridge and glass windows. It's entirely up to you when you start designing a ship. This, as I said, is just a basic large grid build. You can go from something like this. Save it off. Exit out of this to something a bit more impressive. This is where I hope that Mod.io is actually up on Space Engineers. This is always fun. As we wait for this one to load, it'll give you an idea that you can go from a ship that looks like the one I'm designing there to the one that's going to show up in a bit. And it took me a couple of weeks while I was recovering from COVID to build the Callisto 71. You can see this again, the same core design principle of boxes within boxes. This is just a box. Who is this? Boxes. The front cargo and assembler system with the refinery. Again, all boxes. Moving down. Back bay. Box. Outside the airlock. That's a box. And engineering. Once more. Big box. More boxes. And then on the outside of the box, some gribblies, detailing, cosmetics. But all in all, that ship, like the one I'm building on the other save, is just boxes inside boxes, all sealed with some functionality built in to the controls. You can do all of this on a controller with no mouse, no keyboard, because that's the Callisto 71 right there, built in a total of about a month. 2 weeks to build the actual proper ship, the shell, and then a couple more weeks to refine the systems. And I am using mods on this one. I'm using the absolutely fantastic Flares torch drive, and I'm using some high power solar panels, which is another great mod. I should probably do a mod showcase on those actually, because they're really cool. The azimuth detectors, although I heard there were some issues with those with the last patch, so I shall be looking into a potential replacement on those if that's the truth. I shall check in with the azimuth guys though and find out. Anyway, that's it. So there you can go from that box ship on my build tutorial into something like the Callisto 71. And that is it for this one. Next time we'll look at fleshing out the other build a little bit more, maybe adding that refiner and a couple of assemblers, and working out where we want potential cargo boxes and some other things. And then we'll look at how we put the thruster systems onto the D-pad, and a couple of things we should do, like putting thrust override onto the directions so you don't have to worry about constantly pushing on the stick to accelerate, and turning your reverse thrusters off so you can coast along in space as well without a problem. Until then, stay safe, take care, have fun, enjoy the game. I'll catch you in the next one. There may be another video. I might even do the mod showcase on the solar panels. Until then, bye for now.